everyone. We'll get going here in just a moment. Hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can see me. And we're going to get going. I'm going to pause my previews. Let's check on YouTube. YouTube is live as well. Sweet, let's get some hellos going. Hi, Yanni. I'm a little rusty at this. Thanks. I guess I'll say it in just a bit, but also thanks to Foamy Guy for covering for me over the holidays and my leave before that. I got a little sucked into some work. So give me a shout out in the chats if you can hear me. I think I got everything set up. I don't think I have duplicate YouTubes. I think I got everything. Finally got my audio working. Yay, DCD. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I think it's good. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't pop out the YouTube chat. Hi, Johnny. Now I can see you. Now I can see your chats. Hi, Hams Labs. Holidays were good. We're good. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Scott. I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit. What are those things? CircuitPython is a version of Python designed for little tiny computers called microcontrollers. Here's an example. This chip here is a microcontroller. This is a Feather RP2350, which I didn't even realize I had on my desk. And it's it runs a version of Python that is self-contained on the device. So it shows up as a CircuitPy drive. There's a code.py file on it. You edit it and it runs. It's meant to be super quick as to getting going. Adafruit has sponsored CircuitPython development from the beginning. It's been over 8 years now. You can support CircuitPython and them by going to adafruit.com. This board here is an Adafruit board, for example. So they take the micros and make the boards and give you everything you need to get going. So I work for them. I work remotely for them. I was out for the holidays, but this is a deep dive. And I tend to do these Friday afternoons, 2 o'clock Pacific time, because I'm in Seattle. I work remotely for Adafruit. So I live and work in Seattle, and Adafruit is in New York City, in Brooklyn now, which I got to tour. I went and visited in December. Brought my eldest kid with me, who's 2. He got to go on the subway and stuff, so that was fun. And we got to hang out with Phil Lamore and baby Ada, or baby Fruit, whatever you want to call her. So that was really fun. And there should be a video coming out. I don't think it's been released yet, with Lamore and I talking, Lady Ada and I talking about the future of CircuitPython. Sadison, you're in Seattle too. Awesome, welcome. Sadison says, I just discovered Adafruit over the holidays after getting a 3D printer. I'm really looking forward to making some cool things. Awesome. I'm in Ballard, and I been playing around with Meshtastic radios. So maybe you'll see that. I'm also a member of a makerspace here, which has been great. Okay, so what is Deep Dive? So Deep Dive is typically about 2 hours. I'm happy to answer questions that people have, although I make no promises whether I'm able to answer them or not. And then I generally just show what I've been working on. So I checked with Tim, and I wanted to do Deep Dive today because I'm trying to get CircuitPython, my Meshtastic radio is making a noise, which I wish it didn't. So I'll unplug it. I gotta figure out how to turn that off. So yeah, it's basically what I'm working on, and it's called the deep dive because I tend to work on the C side that lives under Python code. So we get into the weeds about register maps and real-time operating systems and all that sort of thing. But I hope that by making myself accessible through deep dives, we're able to try to explain all the stuff that I'm working on. Interrupt me with questions. We've had really good times where I go off on tangents. So feel free to ask questions. My plan for today is, because this is the first deep dive of the new year, Happy New Year, everyone. I want to talk over CircuitPython 2025, which is, we do this every year, which is it's a call for people to think more broadly about what they want CircuitPython to become. What are its strengths? What are its weaknesses? Both the core of CircuitPython and the broader ecosystem. And I do a post every year about kind of where I see CircuitPython going, and that's what the video with Lady Ada will be about as well. So I want to briefly take a look at CircuitPython 2024 and do kind of a retrospective look. I'll do CircuitPython 2025, and I think I'll talk about the 2 posts that we've had so far, but I'm not going to talk about my own because I'll do that next week after I write my post. I have ideas, but I think let's do that next week. And then I'm finishing up something right now, so I'm actually going to start with that first. And then the other technical thing that I want to do is I want to show the work that I've made, or the progress I've made on the Zephyr port of CircuitPython, which is a real-time operating system that's really, really popular, and that I want to eventually move all of CircuitPython to. How do people feel about that? So the thing that I want to finish up at the start here is I was updating the ESP IDF to version 5.3.2. And let's go to my desktop. And I don't think, yeah, so we'll get back to this in a second. But if we do, what OS does CircuitPython currently run on? So CircuitPython doesn't have an operating system underneath it except for the ESP chips. So the ESP chips that are Wi-Fi chips, the ESP IDF, which is like the software framework from Espressif, is built on top of free RTOS. So CircuitPython can work in a single thread, free RTOS thread. But for the other chips that we support, we don't have a real-time operating system at all. It's just one big thread. So yeah, it's a big endeavor. CircuitPython libraries work on Linux as well via the Blinka thing, but that's not the core of CircuitPython like I'm doing. So the ESP IDF is what we're built on, and you can see here that last month 5.3.2 was released. Hams Loud says, I have questions about Zephyr, but I'll wait till you get to that. Yeah, we could do Zephyr before CircuitPython 2024 if we wanted to. If that's more interesting to folks. I'm okay flipping the order. I do want to cover it, but it's okay if we do it later. Although I do think the stream loses people later. Anyway, so we were on CircuitPython 5, or on IDF 5.3.1, and they released 5.3.2, and I have a pending pull request, which we can find here. Make the window a bit bigger. I need to have like guides on my wallpaper about how big my windows should be. I had this draft PR that I did, and I did it as a draft because I wanted to let the continuous testing run. And you can see that 17 were failing, and it's all these C3s. And only some boards failed because they ran out of memory, which is like really tricky. So CircuitPython has translations for error messages and a few other messages, and Japanese and Russian are right now our biggest translations. And so they tend to run out of Flash firmware first. Happy New Year's, Tyeth and Jono as well. So I fixed some build stuff, and now I'm running out of memory. I did some looking into where the memory is coming, and it's not clear at all. So I've pulled up, let me drag this tab. So this is a ESP IDF example, and they give a tip. So these are settings to look to reduce overall firmware size, and they have this compiler save restore libcalls reduces binary size by replacing inline prologues and epilogues with library calls. So I think this is a RISC-V compiler thing, and so it'll slow down by adding library calls, but reduce code size. And I was actually quite surprised. I was just doing this, and it's about 20 kilobytes, maybe 18 because of the non-straight-up power 2. But before this setting, I needed 2,000 bytes, and now I have 17,000 free. So at the cost of making function calls slower, which is kind of a bummer, but we get a lot of space back. And this is on a C3, so it's not the end of the world. So what I've done is on the C2, which is even smaller, I just did that, and the C3, and then I needed to change some of the SDK config updating too. So I'm going to say shrink C2 and C3 builds. So it makes it slower, but it'll make it fit. And now I'm just going to push it. And now the reason I wanted to do this first is now we can watch the state of the pull request. Okay. Where am I at on the Zephyr stuff? So do we want to talk CircuitPython 2025/4, or do we want to do Zephyr first? I think Ham's Lab is patiently waiting for Zephyr. No thoughts? What do I want to do? The Zephyr stuff is going to be more open-ended, I think. The delay is pretty bad, I think. I think the YouTube delay is, that's why I'm sitting here, sorry. The YouTube delay, I think, is pretty bad because I have auto captioning on. The delay should be better if you watch on Twitch. Sodison says 2425 first. Okay. Am I saying it reasonably well? Sodison? Sotson? Okay, so let's do CircuitPython in planning. And I'll try not to talk just about what I think it'll be. I'm a human. Wider appeal. Great. We'll get to Zephyr. Zephyr is not going to go away. It's going to be the task for a while. So CircuitPython 2025. It's a new year, and we like to... I feel like so much of the year is spent like incrementally saying like, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix that. And I like to take a chance around the new year, both in my personal life and in the project, to think a bit more broadly. Like, I kind of think of it as like, you're walking along, you're looking at your feet, right, to make sure you don't step on a rock or whatever. But you have to look up and see kind of where you want to go. And so CircuitPython 2024 or 25 is kind of this chance for us to just, as a community, like look up and talk about where we want to head. So I like to kind of start by looking back, and I've done this previous years as well. So the way that CircuitPython year works is that I do a starting post with instructions. So I don't need to show the 24 one. So here's this year's CircuitPython 2025 post, and I can drop it in the chat. So generally, a couple years I did like a summarization of everything that people posted, but right now it's just kind of a running list. So it says you can click here to see all the past years. And these are kind of different topics to kind of seed ideas. But basically, you do a post somewhere on the internet that's publicly accessible. GitHub gists are good. If you do a gist, make sure it's in Markdown, not text file, because it looks a lot nicer. And then there's this email forwarder, circuitpython2025@adafruit.com. So you can tag your posts, but I may not see it. And in fact, we could see if there's anything here under it. Yeah, so Paul has posted, and oh, I didn't even see this one from Cooper. So yeah, I don't always check the tags, but I do like to blog it up on the website and kind of collect it all in one place. So if you do post something for CircuitPython 2025, please email this address, which goes to me and it goes to Phil. And then I do a blog post with it, kind of once a day or less. But I kind of collect all of the posts together. So here's some ideas on what you can talk about. So this is CircuitPython 2025, and then if we look, oh, come on. So the last post we do is a list of kind of what people have posted for the year. So let's take a gander at last year's and kind of see how we did. Don't post on X. Okay, so here's the first posts. Incredible Little Bee posted on the forum. Does Blinka install really need to install so much? I don't think we dealt with that. Simulator for MotorKit. That's like pretty tangential, specific to motor stuff. DJ Devon3 said, now we have S3 working quite well. I think it's unlocked a lot of projects for matrix panels and e-inks to larger qualia stuff. 2023 was quite amazing progress from SynthIO to cameras. Love to see more display I/O progress for touch GUI projects. Foamy Guy's a better person to ask about touch GUI stuff. Graphical user interface. Let's see. So that's that one. We'll go over mine. Wave Sailor says auto conversion between CircuitPython and Micropython. In fact, I bet ChatGPT would not be, like language models would probably be pretty decent at doing that. They're pretty good at Python. This is a thread I can't read because I'm not logged in. But if I remember right, Anne wanted to do a lot of retro computing stuff with CircuitPython. Blitz City DIY. Oh, it's a text file. Says, I'm getting more and more involved. Lots of chatter around USB host and DVI. I've thought to recreate the terminal from Severance, which I don't think she has. More learn guides, looking for more apps and web workflow. Which we've definitely done. Like, I think the web workflow has really grown. Mark says, I was happy to implement animated GIF. Busier, so may not do as much, but still picking up requests. I feel like Mark did do some stuff this in 2024 with us. And I think he's been involved in some of the synth.io stuff. More synth.io such as reverb and other effects, which I think have been hitting that synth.io things with Mark and Cooper have been really pushing that. David says, I think my 2024 is maybe missing from the summary blog post, and you did deal with it live in a deep dive. If it's still available, David, feel free to just email it to me. My email, I'm scott@adafruit.com. You can email it to me, and I can edit the old post so that it's linked to there. This is Jeff's old post. Goes by Stylus on Mastodon. Good year for doing more with what we already have added in 9. I'm thinking stuff like USB host and camera support. I think that's still true. We really haven't given USB host the full treatment, I feel like. Although somebody just was finding a bug. And Jeff was thinking about a year ago, gracefully sunsetting boards where CircuitPython is really constrained. This is an interesting topic. We haven't made much progress on it, but it's definitely something we'll want to think about, especially if we really move everything to Zephyr, because Zephyr may not support absolutely everything. Yeah, I think that's still an unanswered question. IP over USB is what John was requesting. We've not done anything on that. I feel like it was RNDNS is something that like the Linux kernel was removing. I don't know. Sankar's post here is very specific about a particular project, but I think they emailed it anyway. SL0 says, better automated testing or being able to do better automated testing, which is also something we haven't done a lot of. Hi, Timon. Looks like I did get David's 2024. Yeah, I just found it as well. I must have clicked it. Yeah, it's here. It is in the list, David. Toddbot says I wanted dynamically loaded native modules. We still don't have that. Tyeth said, thanks for doing parallel display for the Liligo T display. I'd love to be able to use long-range Wi-Fi on the ESP. Gets about 500 meters. Haven't done that. Some nice wanted to remove the disk not ejected properly warning, which is not something I don't think we can change. Dexter talked about, this year I'm interested in Plan 9 style synthetic file systems and ferroelectric RAM, which we also don't support. So that's, let's talk about David's. Perfect. There are a few Adafruit boards that sensors that do not have CircuitPython. While it's usually well documented, I keep acquiring those by mistake. Yeah, this is a tough one. So David's talking about products being in the shop before we have support. And the reality is that things go in the shop pretty quickly after we have hardware, and it's hard to write drivers before we have hardware. So that's, I think, why you'll see that there's actually a little bit of a lag between when software comes and the hardware is in the shop. Because it's usually like, X sensors in the shop, order it, and then work on the driver. We could either like wait to put it in the shop and send it separately, but it's actually just easier to put it in and say it's coming. There have been at least one where it like lagged even more, and that's just like if everyone's busy and we drop it. But the support forums are the place to ask for that, because I think the intention is that we have drivers for all of the breakup boards. Look at number 2 here, David. Support for the RP2040 successor. It's written in the stars. Raspberry Pi is working on an evolved version of the RP2040 microcontroller. Maybe it'll have more cores, more memory, more storage, and whatnot. Adafruit should be in the starting block as soon as you have access to hardware. CircuitPython support should be better and more user-friendly than what Micropython can offer. So this was the RP2350. I think at the time that you sent me, that you announced this, I actually had hardware. If I remember right, I already had it, and I think I had it working. There is one pretty big thing we haven't added support for, which is deep sleep, which is on my radar. We should add deep sleep support to the RP2350. The disk not ejected properly thing is not something we control. It's a Mac OS thing. It's not our deal. Like, I don't know what you're doing to trigger that. Are you just unplugging it? Because you could also just eject it and then unplug it. Number 3 from David is excellent Bluetooth support for all. Bluetooth is great on the NRF, but limitations are on the Pico W and the S3. We did a lot of work. S3 is a lot better. Pico W still doesn't exist. Find a hidden file that means ignore rapid disconnects to the OS. Talkback gave me a way to hide it, but it was a bit involved. But are you just, like, is that when you just unplug it? Is that any different from how a USB key would act? More marketing on software features. I think there's some effort to track those gems and promote them. Deep Dive can do that. There's also like release notes, generally are pretty good. Better indexing of YouTube content. I feel like this is something like large language models could do. Unplug or sleep. Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, I don't know how to help you. Improve USB host support. Yeah, we should. I really would like to do a CircuitPython standalone device that uses USB host. And maybe that's the point where we really tune USB host support. Create support products with multiple CPUs. This is something I want to do better after we're on Zephyr, because Zephyr has got a system for managing multiple CPUs and different firmware images and stuff like that. So my plan is to kind of like standardize or build on top of how Zephyr does it. Unified network stack. It's a difference between if Airlift and ESP32 or WizNet. Again, Zephyr is the answer here in my brain. For those of you who don't know, Zephyr is a real-time operating system. It brings a standard Bluetooth stack, a standard wireless IP stack, and Ethernet stack. And it manages coprocessors and stuff. So you'll see that a lot in my discussion about CircuitPython 2025. Pico W support may be via Zephyr down the line. There's existing support for Bluetooth HCI for Cypress, but it has sounded like they have a standard HCI available. There's a Zephyr issue that I'm subscribed to that got merged for it, I think. I don't remember what it's called. Issues. It might actually be a pull request. But I get the impression that somebody is working on it. Here we go. So this was merged into Zephyr 3 weeks ago. Add support for SPI to the infineon AIROC Wi-Fi driver. This includes support for 3-wire SPI required by the Raspberry Pi PicoW. Configuration for the PicoW is updated to activate the Wi-Fi chip on that board. So boards, Raspberry Pi, RPi, Pico. So seems to only address Wi-Fi. That I don't know. I guess. I want to get out of this business. I want to get out of this business, which would be nice. But yes, I think you're right. I think this is only Wi-Fi. It's not Bluetooth. Stranger Things over USB. Pretending to be a webcam. Pretending to be a webcam is something we've definitely not really leveraged. What do you mean about get out of this business? So one thing I hope to do with the Zephyr stuff is not have to worry about Bluetooth or Wi-Fi support at all. In the same way that like we have one USB stack and we just use it on different things, like I want to have, I just want to like support Wi-Fi through Zephyr and be done with it. I want to support Bluetooth through Zephyr and be done with it. I don't want to have to do every port. And that's one of the selling points of Zephyr, and ultimately it's like so valuable that it's hard to ignore. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like the reason I want to move to Zephyr is I want to have to do less work for more chips to be supported, especially when it comes to like what I think of as networking, including Bluetooth, like all those that like complicated networking protocol stuff. I'd rather just build on top of Zephyr once and be done with it. That's the dream, at least, right? So right now we have like 3 Bluetooth like stacks. We have the Bluetooth HCI stuff that works with Airlift. We have Nordic soft device, and we have Espressif Nimble. And I'd much prefer to, when we're also looking at the new nrf54 chips, like, and they're well supported by a downstream version of Zephyr. So for sure this becomes a huge headache when you deal with multiple very different socks. Yeah. Yep. And then we also get build stuff, which is really nice. So like managing compilers, and it's all done by the outer Zephyr stuff. So yeah. Stranger Things over USB. I think you're totally right that we need to think about pretending to be a network adapter. I'm not sure what that gets you. Separate USB mass storage independent from CircuitPy would be very nice. We need to get back to it, but the host OSs have some problems with that, I think. Sound card would be interesting. That's an interesting idea too. So yeah, and I think we're gonna get here, David. So I guess because this is 2024, like we didn't get there this year, but I think you're right that this is like something perpetual to do, especially as more devices that we support have high-speed USB. We just can push a lot more data. Okay, and then I saved mine for last because I talk a lot. And it's also, like, for me, it's also kind of a personal thing. Pretend to be a speaker in a microphone. Yeah, I don't know if we have an issue for that. It would be good to check. USB Ethernet could give any board network access. Yeah, we only really want to support that if it's pretty universal. So like my 2024 was like, my mom passed away at the end of 2023. So like kind of got a big brain thing in there. And then the previous year I had my first kid. And so I was out a lot. And spoilers, like I had a baby 2 months ago, our younger of the two, and I will be out a lot in 2025 as well, because I'm saving the bulk of my leave for when my wife goes back to work. So this year is going to be truncated for me, which is fine. One of the things that I've always talked about is workflows, which is something I've thought a lot about. I've thought about the first 5 minutes experience of CircuitPython, and then more broadly all the different ways that you can program CircuitPython. And for the first like versions like 3 through, I don't know, 5, 6 maybe, we were only USB. We were really like you plug it in, it's a CircuitPy drive. But we broadened that out because I wanted to support mobile devices like your phone. And so we added BLE, and then we did web after that, which is like a Wi-Fi or networking workflow where you go to a website and you can edit stuff. BLE hasn't taken off that much, but the web stuff I think has gotten pretty good traction. So it's still true that like we need to push BLE, but standalone it would still be really cool. And this is something maybe we'll do this year. It could be really cool. Like the RP2350 can do DVI out. It's got more RAM. It's quicker. The RP2350 would be a great place to do native, like all-in-one standalone CircuitPython stuff. But we didn't get to that last year. So makes me think, what did we do this year? Espressif BLE was a big thing we did in 2024. And I was thinking about it. Dan and I were debating whether we were going to do CircuitPython 10 before I take more leave. And I was thinking, no, maybe not. But I think actually maybe it's worth pushing to do 10, because one of the main things for 10 we were going to do is actually resort or change the partition tables for 4 megabyte Espressif S3 boards. I pushed and pushed and pushed for OTA, being able to do over-the-air updates, but in order to do that and 4 megabyte flash, you have to shrink how much room CircuitPython has, and that's not enough room for Bluetooth. So on 4 megabyte S3 boards, it would be nice to switch the partition table to one that does not do OTA but can do Bluetooth, because more people are going to care about Bluetooth than OTA, because we've never demonstrated how to use OTA. I just was like holding on to it because at some point I thought we would. But the reality is that people want Bluetooth. So I think maybe we need to come up with a plan for CircuitPython 10. And so I'll have to think through that a little bit more for my CircuitPython 2025 posts next week. So this is kind of a list of folks' thoughts. The deadline last year was the end of January, but that was a bit long. So the deadline this year, and it's a soft deadline. If you do it after, that's fine. But kind of when I'm going to consider it done is the 14th, which is like just under 2 weeks away. So we'll talk about CircuitPython 2025 next week. I'll plan on at least having a draft of my post, but probably just posted it completely. And I will continue to blog up the ones that we've gotten. So if we go back, there's been there have been two posts so far that I've gotten emailed about. I missed Cooper's other one. But one of the big news is that Jeff is going to be stepping away from CircuitPython. He's not going to be working on it as much after March, I think. So this is a bit of a retrospective. So not only am I going to be doing less work for CircuitPython this year, but Jeff will as well. And that's kind of core to what Jeff is talking about doing. He's going to be doing a bunch of travel, which is super exciting. And he's still may be brought on to do some projects and stuff. He just won't be as consistent on CircuitPython as he has been. So that's the big news in the first CircuitPython 2025 I saw. I actually knew about that earlier, but Jeff thought it was a good CircuitPython 2025 is like, you know, longer term planning, and that's a key piece of planning for next year. Let me actually open this one. I should blog this up. Cooper says, looking for improvements on audio effects and migration over to Zephyr, multi-core on the RP2350. Pleasure to work with the Adafruit crew for the past few months. Awesome. And the long-term goal of Zephyr is to be able to do multi-core better as well. But we got to get everything moved to Zephyr before we can really take advantage of it. And I forgot to post Paul's thing, but so Paul did this CircuitPython show podcast, and he announced that it's returning for 2025. So that's very exciting. I've heard some talk about what they're going to be doing, and I'm excited for what. Actually, he says how to design a PCB, building CircuitPython from source, creating games for CircuitPython, a panel interview about CircuitPython's new audio effects and filters, and more. Guests both new and returning. So that's super awesome, Paul. I'm excited for that. So that's where we're at with CircuitPython 2025. Any questions or thoughts before we switch to Zephyr? I'd love for folks to post on your blog or a gist or on Mastodon. Email the CircuitPython2025@adafruit.com and I'll get it posted up probably on Monday because I did a post today already. All right, I'm gonna check on, ooh, it passed, perfect. So I'm going to request a review, mark it ready. I didn't actually, I did a smoke test, but I have not tried it on a lot of things, so there's a chance I'll break it. From 5.3.1 to 5.3.2 should not be that many changes on the IDF side. Okay. Oh, and I didn't talk about FoamyGuy. So FoamyGuy, Tim is doing more and more work with CircuitPython and Adafruit, which is awesome. So Jeff and I will be doing less this year. Me, it's just this year. Jeff, it's going forwards. But FoamyGuy is starting to do, he said, my prior full-time job was winding down and I'm moving to Adafruit and CircuitPython for my primary work. So we're going to get more FoamyGuy hours, which is awesome. He talks a lot about different things. Tim, FoamyGuy, has been doing a lot of, he says he wants to do more C code. but also doing a lot of device drivers. Really doing a lot. He does a lot of the device driver management, which is really important and helpful. He also did a lot of display I/O stuff, so that's really interesting too. He mentions LVGL, and this is something I've talked about a little bit. I don't honestly think it's going to happen next year, unless somebody else besides me does it. But I kind of, when I was thinking about last month, when I was thinking about CircuitPython 2025 and priorities, like kind of Lamore had this challenge of, like, she wanted, like, how can we make it easier to port to new boards? And the reality is that, like, Zephyr, if we have to do Zephyr work for the nrf54s anyway, like, actually just moving that kind of whole hog will like, for all the ports, will give us some pretty big advantages in terms of getting things up and running, which I actually hope to show you today. LVGL was kind of like, I also have this desire to re-implement display I/O for boards that aren't RAM constrained. So so display I/O is designed to work with very limited RAM, like the Cortex, like the SAMD21s, which max out at 32K. But now we have these other boards like the ESP32P4 is coming. It's just got like gobs of RAM and it's super fast and dual core, and it's like, I want to just have like on those boards, we do display I/O in a fast way that uses more RAM. And I think the answer to that is actually just build display I/O on top of LVGL, because LVGL has some support for accelerators. So like 2D DMA and these other peripherals that some of these chips have for doing drawing faster. So I think the answer is like build display I/O on top of LVGL for boards that don't need the like slimmed down version. And then if it's on LVGL, like potentially then we could also have like an LVGL API. There is a Micropython version of LVGL that is like autogens bindings to Python from C, and it's a C API, and I don't like it. So I would want to put something on top of it that is probably not that. It needs to be like object-oriented in my book. But display I/O is that. So like if we could just do the same display I/O stuff but on top of LVGL, that'd be pretty neat. But that's like that's quite down the road. That's like after Zephyr, and Zephyr is a big task. Talked about audio stuff. I don't know a ton about audio. Circuit Matter, Dan's picking up and just working through, which is awesome. And then Tim also mentions Meshtastic, which is not super CircuitPython related. It's a like mesh networking over Lora, but I've been getting into that myself. I actually have like a Meshtastic radio in the window here that I'm just going to leave on so it can forward things and see if I can get like this one talking to the one at home. Okay, so that's it, I think. For CircuitPython 2025 at this point, folks should email me if you post something up. I'd love to hear. It's really about like what's on people's radar, and is there something we're missing about kind of the fundamentals of Adafruit. And CircuitPython in my mind is that like Adafruit makes common technologies that you see in devices accessible to everyone. So like one thing I'm excited about is like DSI displays. These are these displays that are commonly in phones. They're like higher res than what we can do now, but they're still pretty inexpensive because they're in phones. So like that's taking like something that is inaccessible to a hobbyist and making it accessible. So that's the sort of thing I'm thinking about with CircuitPython 2025 is like long term, like what are these big things that we want to be able to do with CircuitPython that we couldn't before? Okay. All right, any questions? Otherwise, let's switch to Zephyr. Isn't that kind of symbolic? If I type git switch Zephyr as I talk about a different thing. Sodison says phone-like displays would be amazing. I agree. I agree. I also really like e-inks. I think Lady Ada / Lemore feels a bit burned about e-inks because the chips are evolving pretty quick, which means that like supporting available e-inks is kind of a constant thing. But I really like e-inks. I found this 10.3 inch e-ink that you could drive from CircuitPython, and I'd love to see that a bit more as well. I like e-ink a lot. But yeah, phone-like displays would be cool too. And like the ESP32P4, for example, has support for that. And in fact, like the dev kit you get from them comes with this like really big touchscreen display. The MODOS controller solves this problem to a degree. I don't know what that is. MODOS? Jono says e-inks, 3 thumbs up. Yeah, I like e-inks a lot. Okay, so now we're in Zephyr land. And let's see, what was I doing? So I was building for the nrfutil L15. Does it build right now? So I was reorganizing a lot. So it does look like it built. Let me plug it in and let's just see if it works. Let's just see how lucky I can get. So I've plugged in. Actually, let me show you what I've got first. So I've got this board here. It's a nrf54 L15 development kit. And it's one of the newest nrf54s. This does not have native USB. Let's just take a look. So let's split top and bottom. So we're connected to USB. It's a debugger, so we're going to do USB Seger interface 0 maybe? And we're just going to do West Flash. And it rebuilds stuff, and I'm not sure why. And no module nordic semi. Local bin nrfutil. Yeah, the antenna here is it's the NFC antenna. Local bin. I think I've got to uninstall that. And I frankly don't know why I have that. Let's see if I can do it with pip. What do I get? I had to redo so it didn't succeed? Oh, it did. Collections. So I just updated to Python 3.13, and I'm having some bit of teething problems with it. But like, this is silly. Like, it's using a native Python package, and yet it's not working. Maybe let's blow it away and see what happens. I don't think I can update Python again. No. We deactivated. I tend to just have one virtual environment. Can I install nrfutil now? No. Why do I have pyyaml 4.2? I feel like this sort of thing with Python's gotten worse. nrfutil 5.2. You know what? I think you know what I blame? I think this is, I don't think Nordic updates nrfutil anymore. Like, if we look at PyPI, like, nrfutil is not something you just pip install anymore. Like, the last time it was updated was September 28th, 2022. Like, they've redone it in, like, Rust or something. I blame Nordic. I blame Nordic for that one. I don't know why we're not getting it just installed for us. No module named Nordic Semi. But I don't know where this nrfutil came from. Like, local bin. Like, that doesn't even work. Let's just delete it. Now it doesn't work at all. How did I do it? I'm running native Zephyr and Zephyr SDK. Like, I don't know why, like, Nordic decided to do package management themselves, which is really silly. I think it's not. nrfutil should be part of the SDK, aka toolchain. Well, I think toolchains are here in the Zephyr SDK thing. This looks like just compiling stuff. I did have it working, and then my Python updated, and I didn't get it. Like, download this executable. Like, this is why we have package managers. Like, what are you doing? Download this blob. Oh, and then you use it to install it. I'm sorry, this is not good. Look, I already have it. Who knows what version it is? That's probably what I put it in local. Like, commands get installed. Like, not a good approach. At least Linux has strace to see what the blob is doing. I shouldn't need a blob. I'm sorry. This is just a bad choice. Like, Python's great. Or at least, like, use a package manager. Don't just have me download some blob. A new one smaller. I want to delete it. It's the actual utility. But the utility installs stuff. Yeah, I found that. Let's do it to the local. Does this work? Like, this is not something it should do. Like, recover a core. what was wrong with Python? What was wrong with pip? You hired some new people and they wanted to do Rust, and now it's freaking impossible to install. Now your binary blob does installation management, and I don't know what it's doing. Like, it's the same size, it just downloaded some stuff and put it some random place. Like, no, I don't want that. All right, now it's working though. And we didn't get any output here. Let's try the second one. There we go. Look at that. Hello from Zephyr. How much RAM do we have? GC. Oh, I crashed. I think I crashed it. I've been really quite happy with the West stuff. So, for example, instead of West Flash, I can do West Debug. Connection timed out. Well, that didn't work. It worked for me before. Maybe it's this. Let's remove that and see what happens. Okay, so now we're connected. Oh, we're in reset state, so continue. And we're in auto reload ready. What happens if... Okay. There we go. Port heap get largest free size. Walk pool. So maybe we don't actually have a heap at all? People tend to be annoyed at it because they're not used to needing a framework-specific CLI tool, but it does so many nice things. I think one of the few things that actually makes it easier rather than more complex. Yeah, the West Flash, West Debug, West build have been pretty good. I need to figure out how to get it to default to Makefiles instead of CMake. But the idea that like I just use that with whatever board I'm doing. So like, should we try a different board and just see if we can get that far? I want to go a little crazy. I want to get an ST chip out, I think. Let me grab some random ST board and see if we can get that far. Zap to the mic. Okay, so here, ST has really cheap microcontroller dev kits, which are pretty awesome. And so I've got a Nucleo U575ZI. So STM32U575. Let's see what's this? M33 at 160 megahertz. 1 or 2 megabytes of flash memory. 786K of RAM. So now I'm gonna do Zephyr boards and just make sure U575. Nucleo U575ZI. It has it in here. Here's the name. So I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna quit GDB. I'm gonna remove my build folder because right now it's all one folder. And I can unplug this because it's not that board. And now let's go up to my build command. Further up than I thought. That's the board. And now we're gonna do that. Conventia, hello. You can extend it with project-specific commands without forking West. Could be potentially useful for some CircuitPython specific stuff. Yeah, maybe. Maybe in the long run. In the short term, implicit definition of function print K. Oh, there's no storage partition. So let's take a gander at, this is good. This is one of the benefits I want to get from this. So let me close this expressive stuff. So I've reorganized it. I think I showed it last deep dive I did, but I reorganized it so it's actually a Zephyr CP ports / Zephyr CP. So last time I was doing it, I was like broad, like we're gonna move all over to this. This is how everything will move. And now I'm like, I can't do that in all in one go. So now I'm having a Zephyr port, and it's -CP because Micropython has a Zephyr port too, but we're not gonna use that at all. We're gonna do it differently. And so that's why it's Zephyr CP. And now I'm trying to like scope it all to this one port for the time being. And then what I want to do is like any new boards that we want to support that we don't have supported in current ports, I'll just turn a few on that can be like test Zephyr CircuitPython boards. And then we'll build it, and then we'll like broaden it until we encompass everything or nearly everything. Okay, so what we can do is we can look and build Zephyr device tree. And then there should be flash controller. I thought there should be partition information. But basically there's no storage. So for the moment, I'm going to redo this flash stuff anyway. So I'm just going to flash area open. It doesn't work now anyway. See if that fixes it. Yay! So now what we do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to plug in the board. It's got an ST link on it. We have a red light and some other LEDs. And I'm going to do West Flash. I don't know why it runs the CircuitPython build again. Timon says, is the plan to eventually get rid of ports entirely or keep the structure and have a single port when everything is moved over? I think what it will be is that what's under ports is a lot more limited. So it'll only be, and maybe we could think about this even differently, but boards no longer live in ports, but the common HAL implementations may. Because for things like bus I/O, where we don't have dynamic pins via Zephyr, we still need to kind of go around Zephyr to implement those. So what we'll need to do is Zephyr will implement versions of bus I/O stuff like UART, I2C, and SPI in a different module. So it'll have, I think what I'm going to do is like Zephyr has different types of drivers like UART or I2C or SPI. We'll have a Zephyr underscore UART, a Zephyr underscore I2C, Zephyr underscore SPI. And those will be implementations of SPI, I2C, and UART. The same API, but different. They'll be under something different. You can't do dynamic pins in Zephyr without enumerating every possible combination in your pin control device tree. As far as I can tell. It's not quite what we need. There is some question about whether we might just have to do pin muxing ourselves and then use everything else. But we'll see. Right now, what I've been looking at primarily is NRF. And my goal is, I think my plan for NRF is like, we'll use NRFX, the same version that Zephyr does, separately. Yeah. I mean, how do you do, there's no Zephyr API where you just tell it what pin to connect I2C to. Like, you have to enumerate, as far as I know, you have to enumerate all the values in pin control. Install it. I bet I'm surprised these tools aren't installed by default. This one's recently updated, so this is probably what I want. It's from ST. I don't have to use Zephyr for everything. That's not going to happen. I want to use Zephyr. I want to use Zephyr for everything that's like useful and possible. So it failed because it hasn't been updated. I'm installing all the dependencies, but I bet it's out of date. Great. Now you must add the cookie in the request header to download files. Please download the version via the browser and then use make package to manually install it. Lovely. That's so helpful. Oh, because I had to accept the license. What the heck? Ugh. So gross. Don't you want me to use your thing? Here's my work email. Dynamic pin control. Like, what marketing person came up with that? Like, we need to harvest emails by, like, email gating software for my stuff. Man, I am on a rant today. I'm sorry, I'm not usually this whiny. But, come on. Not usually this whiny, I don't think. Build Your CNC says, I have the same problem. I need to always log in. I've been streaming STM32 for a long time and always need to log in. DCD says, ranting with good reason is acceptable. All right, I'll take it. Now I got to check my email off stream in the tiny window. Start your software download. We held you hostage, forcing you to give our marketing team. At least they didn't check the box that I wanted marketing emails. Sometimes it's spicy. Build Your CNC says, I have the same rant. Hamslab says, I was away for Cuba for a bit. I started with Zephyr and I'm struggling to get over the hump. I'm quite familiar with RTOSs, but the build system and directory T are taking me a while to wrap my mind around. Do you have any suggestions, a way to get through this? Perhaps a tutorial? I'm not using the VS Code extension either. It's definitely a hump I had to get over. Like, the West documentation is like, there's 3 ways to organize your project. Like, is it in the tree, or is it next to the tree, or there's a workspace? And I'm just like, pick one, right? Like, you don't need to give me 3 options. Just pick one. And by the way, pick the one where it's not in the same thing. I think the Zephyr docs are reasonably good. I was ranting earlier about nrfutil where I had to like download some blob, but like with West, you pip install West, and then West can install more things, which is great, which I definitely prefer. So yeah. Did I download it? Yes. Okay, so where does I wonder if I could copy downloads. It's looking for EN STM32 cube, and I'm just gonna move it or copy it to here. Hopefully it can find it. I just copy it to the cache. Hey, there we go. Jonathan, 10 nights and deep dive. Salt. Yeah, I'm getting salty, aren't I? This is good. This looks promising. Java version, great. Not excited about that. I'm like, use Python for tooling all day, every day. Obviously, I'm biased, but okay. Let's see if West Flash works. It does. Awesome. Can I? Okay, there is a ST. Oh, look at that. Isn't that neat? Okay, so D13 with STM32U575XX. That's not quite right. We're in safe mode because I don't have Flash running yet. This board doesn't have Flash, I don't think. It doesn't have a separate Flash chip. This ST is a U575, but I picked one that I knew would be like kind of neat to have CircuitPython on. But it's just some random one. So the point is like the console works on any Zephyr board. Like I can do the REPL on any Zephyr board, which is pretty neat. I'd like to, I don't know why the heap's not working. We'll get there. And we can debug that. But the idea that I can just take a random dev board that is supported by Zephyr and just make it work. Have you seen the new STM32N6? Somebody filed an issue wanting CircuitPython support. And I think DigiKey does have boards. I think I glanced at this and they're not on stock and they're a little bit above my impulse buy rate. My impulse purchase cost, like $20 is the sweet spot. Any more than that and I can't really impulse buy it unless I know we're going to do it. And then the other question is like, okay, like pretty much I'm not going to add any more microcontroller support. That's not Zephyr right now. If we go back here, STM32N6, and it doesn't have it. It's not in here. So potentially we'll have to maintain board definitions for Zephyr too, and that's okay. I'm okay with that, even though it's device tree and device tree is wild. Actually, the other thing we could look at is import microcontroller. Okay, so we didn't get any pins, and we don't have microcontroller. Okay, I will subscribe to that. Subscribe. I mean, eventually we'll go there, but I don't want to get hung up waiting for Zephyr to do everything we need. Like, we can go around it just fine. And in fact, we're going to be reusing it for a while. See, update pin control update states. Do these dev configs, they can be config, but the states are, yeah, maybe we can, we just have to put it in that structure. It doesn't really help you though, because I think the pin control stuff is very I don't think it's very abstracted. Like, pin controls are like, you put some random value. Help modules. Let's look. It should be mostly off. Yeah. Huh. There is bus I/O. And digital I/O. Did we blink? If I restart, do we blink? I see an LD5. I'm not sure I'm setting a status LED yet. Although I think it works if I do. I think it might work if I do. Let's see if I... So, when I build, West is the digital I/O would be the one I would suspect would be relevant. I don't know why microcontroller's not showing up. I thought microcontroller pin should be built in, because I think I'm enumerating pins. If we take a peek at our build directory again, I think I'm generating Zephyr, no, CircuitPython, source, build, board. So I'm auto-generating. I'm not auto-generating it yet. This looks like it's an Arduino compatible. Maybe it's not. You know what? They have their own pinout, don't they? Their own Nucleo pinout. Yeah, we could see. I'm not there yet. Zephyr, my go-to RTOS rather than free RTOS. I want to do on a daisy seed, which is STM. A few IDs for ESP32, LVGL. There is a Zephyr LVGL example too. So I don't actually have any pins generating here. And hardware board name is D13. That's not right. I don't know where that's coming from. But what I'm doing is I'm reading in generating board info. So I read loaders. And then I'm writing stuff out. Board name. So I haven't finished. I'm overwriting that. That's part of my problem. I'm going to build it again. I'm trying to fix the D13 thing. I'm not filling out all the pin information yet. I'm only printing it out. Oh, you know, I think I may not be. Overwriting it or something. There, now the name's right here. Oh, you know what? My CircuitPython build stuff's not tracking header dependencies. That's on my to-do list. LVGL demo wouldn't fit on the WIO terminal. It bothered me that I couldn't find out what the symbol tables look like and what was taking up so much data space. I feel like in my build folder, I'm getting a map file out. Okay, so now this is correct. And if we look at my build, I am this is why I'm doing a clear at the start of my build. Okay, so I'm loading the device tree up, and now I'm printing out information about pins. But I'm not putting it in the board file yet. So let's actually do that. What does the struct look like? It might be good to check out the header. I'm so used to writing at register level. These functions are foreign to me. Yeah, I'm not going to dig into that right now. That's a good question. But I looked at the device tree for pin control just a bit, and it was like custom per manufacturer like values. There wasn't an abstraction of like connect this device to that pin, that sort of thing. When I looked. Okay, but I wanna do. Let's finish generating the pin objects. As we can see here, I've combined pins into two places. Here and MCU pin globals table and the board table. So let's just iterate on this a bit. So board pin name, we have pins. And we are printing pin object name out. I didn't finish this. Hello, Beata. And then board pin naming. And I'm going to do board names. I already have board names. Copy. Pin object name. And then board. Let's go and play PoE2. Glad to see the live stream. Is there a live stream schedule I can look out for them? So I stream this time every Friday mostly, 2 p.m. Pacific here on Adafruit. The Discord does have, I forget what it's called, showtimes. We'll show you all the different live streams that happen on this channel. I think it's up to date. And you can expect with the new year that it'll get going. Okay, so Pin mapping. You're welcome. Why did it not change colors? Oh, I think I know why. Because this needs to be doubled up. To get a literal in there. And then we'll do pins equals new line joined pins. And board pin mapping equals new line. So the reason I'm doing this is that I can't turn LEDs on if I don't have access to the pin objects. And I guess it is in the YouTube stream capture. Yeah. Oh, I should say to join the Discord, you can go to adafru.it/discord. That redo it? Okay, it failed, which is fine. And F string. I like did all this work to get this data and then I didn't put it in the auto-generated file. Let's see what we ended up with. That's not right. Definitely not right. Oh. That's one problem. I'd expect it to like complain that it doesn't have access to objects. There we go. Green LED 1, 2, 3. It's going to be a problem. Hmm. "2024 YouTube Maker Secret Santa." Somebody else was talking about that. I have this problem. This code is not organized well, I was working on it on my laptop, and I find organizing harder on my laptop. Do you see some of this work adding the board becoming automated? This is the code that's automating it, is what I would say. Maybe not. Looks like a template. Yeah, this is taking board information from Zephyr and generating the board stuff that we need for CircuitPython. So in theory, it's replacing all of the pins.c's that are available in CircuitPython right now. MCU pin mapping. Any other questions? We got about 10 minutes. Yeah, this is Zephyr to CircuitPython mapping. Yep. There's a reason I left these commented in here. And I'm using F strings all over the place. I don't expect it to work once I get it. I should be able to pick out an LED as well. And name. I'm going to do equals upper and replace spaces with underscores. Oh, getting further. MCU pin mapping. Oh, I've got to do. Here. So where is build CircuitPython getting the Zephyr information? So it is getting the Zephyr information from the device tree. So we're looking in the board at artifacts. Sorry, this is as big as my window gets. Yep. Grocery store run. Okay, so we're reading runners.yaml, board.yaml, and then we also are reading Zephyr DTS. And then we're looking through the device tree nodes. We're looking for GPIOs. And then markers compatible GPIO map. If it has GPIO map, it gives us names. If it's an LED and it has a label, we get a name. And then we're looking through all of the I/O ports. figuring out a shared prefix, looking through I/O ports again, and doing this pin generation. That's so it's from the device tree. So device tree is fragmented, and then the West builds it all into one device tree. So if we look under Zephyr DTS, so it says like, oh, like here's the flash controller, here's the UART that's using for console, flash, and then here's some names. Gives you a lot of information about the system. Pin control, different GPIOs, and you can see that they have like F, G, H, I. No, this device tree information is coming from Zephyr. It's not what I downloaded. What I downloaded from ST before is just the like program that's used to flash the device. And there's like two UARTs that are on. That's what OK is. And it's connected to particular pins. Which is interesting. And I want to make those available as like board.uart1 or whatever. Oh, this is interesting. This one's called Arduino serial. So like we should say board.arduino serial, for example, Arduino SPI, Arduino I2C. Like we can start doing some of that. Like whatever it turns on by default, we should make available. Octal SPI. And then CPU 0, SRAM, clocks. This is a complicated chip. But here's like, oh, this is a user button on this GPIO. I don't know what Zephyr code is. But like in theory, we could do board.user button or whatever, and then give you an object that interfaces with this. Green LED 1, blue LED 1 is PWM LEDs, but it's disabled. And then these have names as well. It can say like, here's an Arduino connector. And in my build thing, I have a mapping. So if it's an Arduino header R3, Arduino header R3, like these are names. This is where the board names are coming from. And then it's this that's telling me like which GPIO it's connected to. So it's coming from this like resulting DTS file. Zephyr already knew about your board, and that's what you gain. Yes, and Zephyr knows like what compiler to use and what compilation flags to use. So when West is calling out to my build script to build CircuitPython, it's telling me what the compiler and the compile flags are already. And then I just build a CircuitPython as a library, which my Zephyr main just calls. Okay, so this is kind of what I expected, is that I'm just not putting the right thing in here for these functions. Let me take a quick peek. Did I update common hell? Microcontroller pin takes in a number. How do I have digital I/O working? Digital I/O claims a pin. Oh, and it doesn't do anything. I thought I implemented digital I/O. Did I remove it? So when I reorganized it, I left myself a Zephyr experimental branch, and can I compare? This is going to be way wrong. But boop, boop, boo. So this is my version prior to. When I was trying to change the whole world, this is my version. I did bus IO UART. Oh, I didn't do digital in out. I thought I did. I thought I had done it. Maybe I deleted it, or gpio driver APIs. I looked at this. Port get. So this is what I need. GPIO pin set raw. Did I not do it? Not what I want. Well, that's, I think I did get it working. I'm assuming that putting CircuitPython on top of Zephyr is going to make it quite dissimilar to Micropython. What types of issues do you think this might cause? That's not my I don't know what you're worried about. So Zephyr itself is not very dynamic, but that's not my intention. Like, I don't want to take things away from CircuitPython. We will eventually move like our threading and locking and all of the real-time operating system sorts of things over to Zephyr, which Micropython doesn't do. They kind of do it themselves. So we have like this in CircuitPython right now, we have background tasks, and like they have their own way of doing that effective, like essentially too. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Because the VM itself is not going to change that much. It's again like hardware APIs and things like that. I need to check my laptop to see if I have code for this, but I did this. I did do this already. But I can also generate it. So what I'll have to do is in fact, struct device port and then pin and then value. So that's what I'm going to do here. And maybe I'm just confused. So we're going to do these two things. Port and pin. And This is probably from, I gotta get out of here soon because I gotta go to the store. But they have the header in here usually, I thought. Pin set raw. Copy. Oh, let's just do this. Port and pin, and then, so it's going to be base port pin. So build CircuitPython is going to be doing pin object base.type that's what's confusing me. Base.type equals port equals and pin equals. And my guess is that, how's your time schedule today? I gotta wrap up. I gotta stop. Let me commit everything and then push it. I don't know where those changes went though. I'm still pretty happy with the like, let me just run it on this other board, and it kind of worked. Yeah, trailing white space. You folks aren't quite sure you're going forward with Zephyr. Do you speak to this while I was away? I haven't found a reason not to do it. So I'm still very, I'm pretty sure it's the right way to go, and I've figured out how I want to approach it so that I can kind of do it piecemeal. So like in December, I was like, whole hog, like this is where we're going to end up. I'm going to move like all the NRF boards to the top level and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can't do that. I got to start somewhere. And so having a Zephyr port to the side where I can do new Nordic chips and stuff, and then kind of like slowly kind of expand it out to encompass everything is my plan. But like it doesn't make sense for me to like try to replace the existing Nordic port because the Bluetooth stuff is, I know, going to be a lot of work. So like it makes sense to do all that work in the side as everything's, and keep it checked in and be able to use it. So like this nrf54L15, like we won't support with the old Nordic port. So like I have a plan on how to do it. I think we're going to do it. There's no reason not to that I've found. Okay. Thank you everybody for joining me on this deep dive. These happen Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific, unless a kid is sick or I'm out of town. And then thanks to Foamy Guy who fills in for me regularly. Will later this year when I'm out on more paternity leave. If you want to support me, you can go to adafruit.com, purchase hardware there. They pay me to do these streams. They pay me to work on CircuitPython. And they pay me to take time off for parental leave too, which is great. So Adafruit's an awesome company, adafruit.com, support them there. If you want to join the Discord server, the middle one here, it's adafru.it/discord. I should be around next week. We'll talk more about CircuitPython 2025. So please post up what your thoughts for longer term CircuitPython projects and abilities are. Send an email to circuitpython2025@adafruit.com so that I don't miss things. And I'll blog them up and we'll collect them all in one spot. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks to DCD who usually does time codes, and I'll talk to you all